Welcome to another episode of From Shadows to Strength podcast. I am your host, Tyson, alongside my co-host, Jay. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe button so you never miss another podcast episode. And today, we're going to be talking about the power and importance of accountability and taking responsibility for one's actions. So before Jay joins us, I'm going to be delving into I like to start off every podcast, if possible, with a quote. So I'm going to start off today with that quote. So the quote is, "You are responsible for your second thought and your first action." So your first thought is based on a lifetime of conditioning, external and internal influences. However, you hold the responsibility to determine what happens next. So once that first thought happens, we are responsible and must be accountable for every thought and action that follows and the potential consequences that could come from taking an impulsive action. So between stimulus and response, there's a space. And that space is where we act, learn, grow, and build. So I want to kind of dissect this quote and what I just read by using an analogy, a scenario that I think we're all very familiar with. So I want you to imagine right now that you're running late. You had maybe a restless night's sleep, or you even had maybe a tough morning with the kids, or maybe you've had all three and it's creating a quote unquote perfect storm. Now, as you're driving off to work through, your typical morning traffic, another driver cuts you off. Now, most of us, initial reaction, our first thought is going to be major irritation and anger. And this response is influenced by our current emotional state and, of course, our past experiences with stress. That's conditioning, right? The space between stimulus and response. So in that moment of frustration, you have the ability to pause, to take a breath, and instead of reacting out of anger, you can choose how you want to respond next. Now, it's responsibility. So you need to acknowledge that you're in an emotional disadvantage, which can amplify your initial thought. So recognizing this responsibility, it empowers you to control how you react in that moment. Reflect on your current emotional state and then take responsibility for it and how it influences your reactions. Second thought. So now you want to shift from anger to understanding. So this is a bit of empathy, right? Maybe they're in a hurry. Maybe they're having an emergency, or maybe they just simply didn't see me. Now, this requires a conscious choice, allowing you to address a situation with a clearer and more controlled mindset. Next is accountability for your actions. So by choosing and responding with calmness rather than aggression and anger, you hold yourself accountable for creating a safe environment for yourself and everyone else on the road around you, right? Your first action could be to take a few deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, right? Adjust your mindset, or just simply swallow your pride. And look, that is hard. That's still a hard one for me to do from time to time. So swallow your pride and simply let it go. Ask yourself, is it worth it? By doing so, you take accountability for your emotional well-being and the kind of person you want to be. So think about winning the morning, or in this case, win the situation by making the right choice. Because when you make that right choice, especially first thing in the day, right, you are winning the day. You're making a conscientious choice, going against maybe your nature, against your conditioning to do the right thing and to do the hard thing. So you have to think too, there's no negative self-talk or regret that could potentially ruin the rest of your day. That's going to come from making the wrong decision, right? So a lot of the time we make that impulsive decision, and now all day you got that negative self-talk, you got that regret, and now your whole day is thrown off, right? You go to work and now you're less productive at work. You're maybe, if you're a boss, maybe you're going to be more short with your employees. if you're an employer, if you are an employee, you're going to maybe be just unproductive and short with everyone else around you. So it's going to affect everything. And then you go home and maybe you're still carrying it. It affects your wife or your husband or your kids or your spouse, like whatever, right? Your partner. So there are countless cases too you want to think of road rage gone wrong. I mean, we live in Canada. Anyone that is Canadian listening to this, we live in Canada, so now we do have incidents of road rage, and there are some where people have wound up dead recently. More so, I think, in the States, where you really have to be cautious because you don't know what you're dealing with potentially when you get out. And I always caution my wife about that, right? When she's driving on her own and someone drives in a way that is aggressive and so I'm like, babe, you just like after spending a decade in prison, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that there are people in prison for really dumb things, doing really dumb things. And some of them are, severe assaults that happen while in traffic, road rage, cases of road rage that go too far. So, like, I'm cautioning you right now, you don't know who's behind the other wheel. And maybe you're a capable individual. Maybe, you're like myself. I mean, you work out, you go to the gym, you know how to handle yourself. The thing is, all the muscle I have, even all the muscle you have, and all the combat experience you might have, that doesn't mean anything if someone pulls out a knife or a gun or some other weapon. Things can turn ugly really fast, and life I've lived and what I've been through. I'm speaking from self experience. And I used to be a person that used to, like rage out on the road and do really dumb things. And those people who, sometimes would interact with me negatively in traffic, they didn't know who I was behind the wheel. And they're having a bad day. Now I'm going to make your day worse, right? If I'm the person getting out of the car, or maybe they're going to make my day worse. But anyways, I digress a little bit. So, you don't want to end up in cuffs over something so stupid as someone cutting you off, honking the horn, flipping you the bird. Like, ask yourself, is that worth it? Imagine not even just being in cuffs. Now you got to pay the lawyers. You got to maybe spend a couple days in jail. Like, there's so much, please. So anyways, again, I'm speaking from experience, and I want to open up today's episode with this because it's really going to kind of set the discussion for as we go later on, as I'm going to tie it in a little bit later to even the night of when the crime happened for myself, when the murder happened that I was involved with, right? And how I allowed my emotions, my conditioning, I had conditioned myself a certain way to react a certain way. And because of that, it cost someone their life. It cost me 10 years of my life. It cost my victim's family, someone they love. Like, the implications that came from my very stupid, impulsive, immature, all the words I could use to describe that night. Anyways, from that one thing, because I didn't allowed my first thought to continue on and I didn't stop it, even though my gut was telling me something is wrong, don't do it. But I had been so conditioned to just ignore it. I didn't trust my gut. One of my biggest regrets to this day is not trusting my gut. That's why we have it, right? Gut instinct, don't ignore it. I'm going to now have Jay join us and we're going to go into we'll continue today's podcast. So let's get things started. I figured it's really important for not just our audience to hear, but probably one of the biggest things I struggled with in my life was being accountable for my poor choices, my poor behavior, and using every excuse imaginable to escape responsibility and accountability for a lot of my actions. So if I were to ask you, Jay, what is the importance of accountability, especially from a military background? What would you say is one of the more important things you've noticed, and have you, struggled with accountability at all in your life?
Yeah, you could talk about because you have to train a certain way and you have to, especially if you want to be in the special forces, you have to be a certain amount of fitness and a certain amount of clear head and calmness and that. And it's just a lot of guys, mostly in the regular military, because everybody in the special forces really wants to be there. So they try out. It's something they sacrifice so much of their life for to be there. The regular army guys would be they'll get lazy, they'll get fat, They love to use the "I have kids" excuse, so I can't train as hard. That's probably the biggest one I hear. Or, "My kids take up too much of my time. I don't have time at night. I have to take them to soccer practice, hockey practice, stuff like that." And so you see a lot of them drop off in fitness, and then they can't keep up on runs. And then, if you're the sergeant or the boss that's running PT and you say, "Why are you falling out?" And it's like, "Well, I'm busy with kids and busy with this." It's like, yes, but you're being paid to basically be in shape. Like, part of your income is your fitness. And there's a reason why we do, your rucksack where you carry your heavy bag on your back. You have to do like 12 kilometers and under, it's like 2 hours and something minutes you have to do it in. And then you have to be able to run, so much, beep test, pick up sandbags, drop it out one end. You have to do this circuit and you have to pass a certain time in order to keep your kind of qualifications and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, it's like everybody has an excuse why they didn't get a better score or why they didn't do this. But it's like when it comes down to it, how much time did they waste? They know about every TV show. They know what happened on Survivor. They know what happened on, the crab fishing show. They know what happened on all these shows, but they don't have time for PT. So that's where we found a lot of in the regular army. It's like they know everything on Instagram. They know everything on all the feeds coming in. They know all the good stuff, but they don't have time to work out.
It's really interesting how you bring that the scapegoat, as you would say it, right? Like I've had some clients sit with me in the office, or potential clients even sit with me in the office when we're doing our initial consultation, and I'll ask them, like, so what has stopped you from reaching your goals that you want to attain? Why do you feel that you're struggling with, X, Y, or Z? And a lot of the time, these guys will sit across from me and be like, oh, well, my kids or my wife or my boss or my employees, right? There's a reason and excuse, my genetics. I love that. That one's my favorite. My genetics, right? My family's fat, so I'm fat. And then I ask them, okay, so if your kids, your wife, your boss, your employees, so are you cool if we do a call right now? Let's get your kids on the phone. Let's get your wife on the phone. Let's get your boss on the phone. And I want you to tell them that they're the reason why you are where you are right now. Are you cool with that? Well, no, I don't mean it like that. I just mean, I've got responsibilities. Okay. But a second ago, you were literally saying that you couldn't do your kind of your bare minimum for yourself, your self-care, because of you're blaming your kids. Your out was your kids, your out was your wife, your out was your boss, your out was your whatever. I get it. You have responsibilities. I'm not telling you to stop being responsible for your kids, but you're not being responsible for yourself. You keep breaking all the promises you make to yourself. And then you wonder why you struggle with self-confidence. And you wonder why you're struggling to reach your goals. And I get it. One of the first things we're going to do as people is we're going to stop maybe something we need to do for ourselves. We're going to maybe not fulfill some form of self-care for ourselves in order to take care of those that we love. I understand that. And I think that's admirable that we will always sacrifice ourselves, especially as a parent. You would sacrifice yourself first before your child. But then at the same time, are you telling me really that you have absolutely no time to take care of yourself at some point during the week, or at least a few times a week, to get a little bit of exercise on the daily? There is time.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us in this day and age, we don't schedule our fitness like we schedule meetings, right? Which is a big thing.
100%. Some of the fittest army guys I've ever seen brought their kids out with them all the time, whether they were like 4, 5, 6. Some would even make it a family thing. They'd be like, all right, I'm going to run. And they'd bring them to like a school track. The schools like go and they have those running tracks around the school. Be like, okay, daddy's going to run a lap, time him, and he would make it fun with his kids. And they're all out, they're all doing stuff. They're all being active together. The kids doing a little run. It doesn't have to be hardcore extreme fitness. Just you going out there doing some wind sprints. You give your kid a real stopwatch or a fake stopwatch. Just make them
Whatever
part
it
of
is.
it. Yeah, and he's gonna love it. He's gonna watch, and he's gonna tell you doing better, whatever. And then he's gonna want to run with you a bit, so you can run with him for your cool down and stuff like that. Like, you can use your family in it. Just so many people think they have to do it by themselves. It's the reason why I remember when I was at Good Life and that they had a daycare drop off there in the gym.
Yeah,
And they had
body
from,
too.
yeah, from little babies to whatever age they went up to. But you could bring your kid there and drop them off for an hour while you worked out, and the daycare people would watch them and stuff. There's always something you can do, always, whether you do it with them, whether, you drop off at daycare. Like, if you want to, you'll make it happen. And you know that from life and everything else. If you want to make the special forces, if you want to get parole, if you want to get out of jail, you will make it happen. If you want it that bad, you will make it happen. Some people that don't make it happen don't want it that bad. They don't have that desire, that drive, that whatever it is that some people have that other people don't, and they'll make excuses.
Complacency.
Yeah.
Complacency kills, right?
Yeah.
Comfort. We're
And
a very comfortable, soft society. And like you said, we'll make excuses or we'll justify and minimize.
yeah.
And that's why we are technically where we are, or where they are. So with that being said, have you ever struggled with you're a very, again, best of the best when it comes to the military, JTF. Did you ever struggle with a form of accountability?
No, I just because fitness, it was just a regular thing. Like, I'd wake up and I'd have to train, so I'd be good with the teams and everything. It wasn't even a question. Like, to me, it was just my meeting at 7:30, and the meeting was gym time, and it was workout time. And if I had an appointment at 8, then I would be at the gym for 6 to make sure I got my workout in before my meeting. And if I couldn't do it in the morning because we're going to start really early, well, then I had to do it when I got home afterwards. It's just, it wasn't a thing because all it takes is one day. One day you miss, and then you think, okay, 2 days, no big deal. I'll get back into it next week. I just need this week to recover and I'll get back into it. And then it's a slippery slope. It's like we talked about before. I'll just have one drink on a Tuesday, just one drink, I'm fine. And then on Wednesday, oh, just 2 drinks today. 2 drinks will help me calm me down, but I won't have any tomorrow. And it's a slippery slope, man. You go down and next thing you know, you're drinking every night when you're going through your problems, or you're eating chips. I'll just have a few chips. Who has a few chips? Nobody I've ever met can eat a few
Isn't
chips.
that like the Lay's slogan? I bet you can't just eat one or something like that. Like, they're not designed for like individual, like single servings. No, they're
Yeah.
addictive. Yeah,
I've
you're
never
absolutely right.
popped a Pringle can and never crushed a
The
Pringle
entire
can.
Pringle. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Same thing. I've never not finished an entire Pringle can
Yeah.
within that.
Yeah. And it's that slippery slope, and it sucks. Like, I admit it sucks. Like, not eating the chips sometimes, and when you just want a snack. Not, when you wake up and it's minus like a zillion outside, like we've had lately, and the wind's blowing and the car doesn't want to start, and you're freezing in the car holding the steering wheel with your fingers because it's so cold. But once you get to the gym and you work out and you warm up, you'll feel so glad you did. But it sucks going there in the morning. People think it's just so easy for us. We just get up and we don't mind the cold. We don't mind this. Like, I whine about it all the time. Like, you hear me whine daily.
I can actually completely 100% verify that Jay sighs and moans and pisses and moans more than anyone I know, but you always do the work. And I think one thing that's to your credit, and I knew, again, I knew this subject wouldn't be one that you've struggled with a lot. As a host, I always want to ask, but I mean, you only have 2 shots, right, at getting JTF.
Yeah, you get 2 chances.
Yeah. So you think about most things in life, you have multiple chances. So, I mean, if you look at like an inmate for parole, I can go for parole. I think it's once every year, or every 2 years. So if I'm denied parole, I can go again and again and again. Within a year or 2 year span, I can keep applying and reapplying, right?
Right.
So there's not, I mean, I think most people want to get their freedom from prison, but there's not a sense of urgency, in the sense like you have 2 chances to do this.
Yeah.
So if you blow your first chance at parole, imagine this: hey, you got one more chance, my boy.
Yeah.
One more chance, and if you don't get your parole this time, you're never going to get it. What do you think that would do for someone, for accountability?
Oh, yeah, they're gonna make sure they study, get their life in order, get their high school diploma if they don't have it. They're gonna really be the best person they are before they go on parole,
Or they're just going to accept the fact that this is it.
Yeah.
And look, there are people who literally will not just do a literal life sentence, in the sense that they've accepted that prison is where they are going to just spend the rest of their days, because institutionalization sets in after 7 years. So a lot of the time, these guys don't have anyone to go out to. They have no support. Their support, their community, their friends, their associates, they're all inside. They've been in for so long that prison is their norm. So I think for some people, if you said you only have two chances and they blew both their chances, they probably wouldn't care. But I think for a good majority of guys, especially guys that aren't serving life in prison, right? They would not want to do that.
Yeah.
They would want to get out. They would want to make the necessary changes. Once they get that correctional plan from their correctional officer and parole officer, they would do everything within their power, I believe, in order to want to get their freedom. There would definitely be a higher degree of accountability in their day-to-day life.
Yeah.
If I can take you back to 2008, I'm going to kind of share a bit of personal accountability with the audience. So back in 2008, we're talking about the Labor Day long weekend in 2008. So I believe that would have been September 1st, actually. I remember getting home from the gym. I'd done a workout. I got back home with my ex. I had just finished smoking a joint, and I got a call from my co-accused, but at the time he was my friend, and he had told me about, I need to come over and see you. He owed me some money, so he was bringing me some money, and he's something he needed to talk to me about. Now, when he came to me with the story, and I'm not going to go into, all the details right now, but, he came to me with the story, and basically, again, I talked about that second thought, first action, that again, conditioning. What he told me made me really angry. What he told me triggered a very real emotional response, and I was enraged. And I allowed, instead of being accountable for my second thought and the actions that followed after that, I allowed my emotions, because I was emotionally unintelligent. I was mentally and emotionally immature at 28 years of age. And I allowed my friend, my associate, to influence my behavior. But again, I am still responsible for that. It's not to say it was on him, and I allowed that at that time. I allowed this individual to influence my behavior. I allowed my emotions to take control, and I went out and someone ended up dead that night. Right. And then after that happened, for the longest time, I continued to play the blame game. I did not want to take accountability for what I had done, right? So I wanted to blame my co-accused for basically coercing me, influencing me, whatever adjective you want to use, to go along and end up taking someone's life. I wanted to blame my ex for ratting me out and putting me, she didn't put me in prison. My actions did, but basically help put me away for a decade in prison. I wanted to blame the fact that I didn't have a father. I wanted to blame the fact that I was, I was on steroids. I remember trying to justify it in my mind, like, well, I was on so much steroids, I just, I roided out, and I killed the guy, and I also try to justify the fact that, well, he was reaching for a gun and I was defending myself. There were so many instances within that night, within my life, that I was using to minimize and to justify what I did, because I didn't want to take accountability. I didn't want to take responsibility for what I had done. And it took a long time,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of people out there right now. And I'm sharing this because there's a lot of people right now that are sitting where they are in their self-imposed prison, and they are finger pointing, my genetics,
Yeah.
my parents, my heartbreak and betrayal, my associates. And it's always someone else, and they're pointing this finger. And people forget, like, when you're pointing that finger, there's three fingers here pointing right back at you. So yes, there are people in your life that probably are not a great influence. And yes, you might have gone through a rough upbringing and had a rough childhood, and I'm not minimizing that. But in the end, you are still responsible for what you do,
Yeah.
right? You might be a victim of circumstance, especially when you're young. And I do understand that. I mean, you've gone through some really hard things when you were young with your parents. I went through some things. A lot of people have. what I think people fail to realize is that, yes, we are not responsible for the damage that happened to us when we're young. We're not responsible for those things. However, we are responsible for our healing. We're responsible for when we get older, old enough, we get ourselves out of that environment. We are responsible for our healing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I could I could have never joined the army. I could have never did anything I did and said, parents this or that. And yeah, like it bothered me and stuff like that. But I was one of those guys that used that rage just to prove a point. Like when you use your childhood trauma rage to accomplish something, you'd be shocked at how far you could go. You know what I mean? Whether you had a narcissist parent or whatever it was, every time I thought about quitting or this or that, I used that. Remember hearing that narcissist parent in my head or this or that. Nothing just drove me more than want to keep going and, want to practice. And for people out there, when I wanted to try out for special forces, I sucked at swimming. I could run, but I was not a fast runner. 13 months training just to make, just to pass that hell week that, the buzzword is hell week. But 13 months I trained just to pass that 7 days of hell, because I had to learn how to swim properly. I had to learn how to run faster and smoother and not run using my whole body. Like it took me a long time to learn this stuff. People just think, he's always been in shape. He was there. No, I sucked at swimming. I would drown all the time. I couldn't tread water for more than 5 minutes without going to the bottom. Like for 8 months, all I did was piss chlorine because I drank so much bloody pool water. That's all I did was urinate it out. You could just smell it all the time. But I just kept going back in, kept taking lessons on running, kept taking lessons on swimming and treading water. And it took me a long time to get it. So, like, I understand when people say it's not easy. I know it's not. 100% I know it's not. It's just getting there every day. And next thing you know, in 2 weeks, you'll be like, oh, wow, I actually did 1,000 more steps and I'm not tired now. Or I actually did that same weight. Tyson had me on 10 pounds. Oh, wow, it feels light now. Maybe I could get 12 and then 15. And it's not that you're doing anything special. You're just getting to the gym every day. You're trying to eat healthy, which, okay, we're going to cheat. We're going to snack. We're going to have all this stuff. It's normal. But, not half the bag of chips, not like 3 ice creams, not like, you know, all that stuff. For some reason, the hardest thing for people to understand is moderation. And people are like, oh, who can moderate? Moderation is the key. Like, I like a Monster Energy drink people see me drink, but I only have two a day. Two a day is max I have if I have two, So I understand that, okay, if I have a bad thing like a Monster or whatever, it's all in moderation. I have to make sure I take my vitamins and have my water and drink everything I need. But I'm going to have the bad things I go to. Like, I know I shouldn't have pre-workout before I work out, but it's my wanted thing I like to have. So, if you do it, it has to be in moderation. If I feel one scoop isn't enough, I'm not having two. I'm stopping at one. If it didn't work one day, it didn't work one day. So it's just like we tell the tribe people, it's the little baby steps you do that'll make you be able to take bigger steps, longer steps, faster steps. But it's a long process. Like you wouldn't believe how much I sucked at swimming and running. Like I could run, but I was like the everyday runner, the
Average Joe
everyday.
kind of runner.
Yeah. Like in the army, in the regular army, you run. It's not a crazy pace, you just run it. And then when you start
What is
realizing
the
the times,
average pace in the military?
I
Just
think it's
regular
probably about a
military.
5 minute kilometer.
And what about in the special forces?
You're looking at a 4 minute kilometer.
So a full minute. And to the audience, that might not sound like a lot, but how much faster are you running when it's a full minute off?
But yeah. Like until I got used to running a 4 minute kilometer, to me, it was a sprint.
Pretty, yeah. And I
Like
remember
when
you
I first
showing me what
started,
that felt like, and it's brutal.
yeah. Yeah. It felt like I was all out sprinting.
Like
And then
that's I think around 9 kilometers an hour, right? On the treadmill, if you were to set that. Well,
9.3.
okay, 9 point. So the audience who's familiar with how the treadmill works, so I want you to think of a 9.3 mile per hour run and then holding that for 4 minutes. There's probably not a lot of people that are listening to this right now that could do that. And that's what Jay is talking about. So this is accountability, right? Now, if he didn't put into practice for those runs, there is no way you're going to get to that. No way. It's going to be day in, day out. Now, you also said something about the swimming. This is something else I want to touch on because I don't want to say I'm deathly afraid of water. I don't mind being in the water, but I'm definitely fearful of the drowning factor and how you told me in the hell week what they do to you. Can you kind of share with the audience what they end up doing to you and what you had to prep for?
Yeah. So basically, they're going to test your fear of water, you know?
Yeah, that's an understatement when you told me the story. But yeah, sit back for this one, guys.
So basically, it's like you're going to spend, can't really, super deep. You're going to spend a lot of time in the pool. And I've seen the biggest, strongest guys that I've ever seen on selection become almost like scared cats. When the water starts going in your nose and mouth, when you realize you're going under, you're not treading the water easy, and then you start clawing. So they call it like the cat claw, where you just want to get out of the pool. You're just trying to grab the sides. You just want to do anything and you can't. So you have to such a fight to tell yourself to stay calm because they're going to want you to go down on the bottom and come up like 100 times and pick stuff up. And you're going to be so exhausted and so tired. And then everybody around you is going to be struggling and they're going to be bumping into you and you're trying to help them. They're trying to help you. And you have to keep going under and come up, under and come up. And then you're going to be treading water, not using your arms, you know?
So hold on. I'm going to stop you here. So for the audience to understand, when you're saying going under, can you go to detail when you told me what that actually involves when they throw you into the deep end and you're
Yeah.
actually tied up?
Yeah. So you have rope around your ankles, rope around your wrists.
So
Okay.
keep that in mind, guys. You're not like free being able to tread water with your hands and feet. You're tied.
Yeah. And so at the top, you'll exhale all your air slowly. And as you exhale your air, you'll go down to the bottom of the pool. Now you have to save enough air in your system so when you hit to the bottom, you crunch your legs and you shoot yourself to the surface as fast as possible. When you break the surface, you have to expand what air you have left, take a nice deep breath, and then slowly release it back down to the bottom of the pool to do it again. And you kind of have to be able to do that, let's say an estimated time around 20 minutes.
Yeah. So I want you guys to think about like when he told me this, I cringed. Like, I honestly felt like I was going to drown and I'm not in water. I got anxious. I got anxiety listening to Jay tell me this. Again, I'm not trained. I'm not saying I couldn't train for something like this, but man, that would definitely probably be the hardest thing I think anyone listening to this right now would have to train for, especially the fact that if you're not a good or a strong swimmer like myself, that you are tied up and that you have to remain calm in an environment that is not a normal environment for us as humans, and that there is a risk of drowning. Now, you've told me that guys do end up drowning, but kind of like passing out and that they bring them back up, resuscitate them. Go ahead. I'm going to let you kind of continue with that.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're going up and down, if you get the rhythm wrong, like you could be 10 minutes into it and you just get the rhythm wrong once or something happens and then you suck in some water, well, you kind of panic. They have lifeguards and everybody there, so everything's safe. They'll get you out real fast. You'll spit up, puke out the water. And then you'll kind of recover. They'll look you right in the face and they'll be like, do you want to quit? And if you say no, they'll throw you right back in the water because you got to catch up now and make up for what you did. But so many people, they'll pull out and they have that scared face, like that petrified face. And they're like, do you want to quit? And they're like, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. And we lose, the majority of the people we lose is in the pool phase. And it's just not being able to relax your brain, not being able to stay calm. And the only thing you can really do for that is just time in the pool. Time in the pool, putting yourself, you don't have to tie your hands, but just going in the pool and you put your hands like this and you say, I'm not going to move my hands. Put your feet together and I'm not going to move my feet. And you just practice and practice. And maybe you start off, you get 2 minutes, then 3, then 4. And the same with me with running. When I was running, I would say, okay, I want to do a 4-minute pace for 2 minutes. And then as my cardio got better, my running strides got better, and then I could do 3, then 4, then 5. And then eventually you're running, a 5K at a 4-minute pace. And you're like, oh, finally, but It takes a long time. I'm not trying to tell anybody, oh, you can get it in a couple weeks. Well, it took me a year. It took me a year to get both of those good enough, you know? And
Now,
I remember,
would you say your training during that time shifted away maybe from lifting weights, maybe as I don't want to say you weren't dedicated to doing it, but did your priorities shift a little bit in order to accompany what you needed to do?
yeah. So for that, like you see the big weightlifter guys that would try out, they made 2 days tops because all that heavy muscle, you have to carry it around. So that's such an excess weight. So basically, if you want to try out for something like that, you need to be master of your own body weight. So you need to be able to pull your own body weight up all day long. You need to be able to do push-ups with your own body weight all day long. So I always say the best kind of bodies are like those rock climber bodies. The guys
Right.
are
So people
lean.
that are more adept at like calisthenics,
Yes.
body,
Yeah.
like you said, body
Calisthenics.
weight stuff.
Yeah. So you're strong, you're very strong, but you're strong with your body weight. And you can
Right.
throw your own body weight around. You can throw your body weight up on pull ups. You can do push ups forever because it's your body weight and you're just used to it. So that body is kind of the body that'll make it the most, I find. Yeah. The big, bulky weightlifters, I've never seen one make it. Never.
So I mean that again, if there's a lot of what you're saying, it all boils down to accountability and responsibility. It boils down to understanding your weaknesses and being accountable to make them now your strengths. And then making sure that you acknowledge what your strengths are and then at least maybe trying to maintain them to the best that you can. And sometimes you might even need to lose maybe a little bit of what your strength is in order to give more to your weaknesses
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
only
Like,
have so much to go around.
yeah. Like I told you, I lost 30 pounds from
Right.
when I started saying, okay, I'm going to start training for a selection like GTF. I lost 30 pounds from when
So
I
what were you
started.
when you started? What was your starting body weight?
So I was 200 pounds was my starting.
Okay.
And then when I started the running and everything, I realized I have too much on me to run properly. I have too much on me to be able to do push-ups all day. I have too much weight on me to be able to do pull-ups. So I need to get rid of kind of excess muscle and keep the just real hardcore, like survival muscle, I call it.
The lean tissue that's necessary, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So I went down 30 pounds and I remember showing up and all the guys that kind of made it with me were all kind of the same. But I remember showing up and I saw guys like 210, 205, and I was like, oh my God, I screwed up. I was like, I'm
Mm.
too small. I'm not going to make it. These guys are massive. They're going to crush me. And then by day two, all the big guys were gone and it was just all the skinny guys left. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's so muscle and almost being, too big in that domain is a hindrance. It's a curse. So you were 170 then when you went through with your
Yeah. When I showed up for my
went
trials,
through
I
with your
was
test.
170 pounds. Yeah. And I felt good. Like I felt lean. I felt like I could run comfortably. I could do the push ups and the pull ups and everything I needed to be able to do with my own body weight. I could do it all day long. So basically, is what you're going to have to do is be able to do it all day. You know, I was a perfect rally car, you could say.
Yeah, we make that joke now as you've gotten further away from being a special forces, now you're retired, I'm always kind of chirping you as like now you're a Formula One. And
Yeah.
our joke is that, Formula One is only good for, like one race and then or a few laps and needs to be tuned and needs, it's just really good for that really fast start. And then after that, it tends to kind of lose its performance. Whereas a rally car just goes and the more beat up, it just continues to perform and it does what it needs to do. And you were, yeah, the definition of what a rally car is.
Yeah. And you see people like day one, people come in, they had the highest scores on like pre-tests. So we always have to do a pre-test and they score you. And guys would max out on the pre-test. They'd be the fastest runners I've ever seen, best swimmers. But after day one, when you don't get your 8 hours of sleep, when you don't get your protein every 2 hours, when you don't get your, normal meals and stuff like that, the Formula One cars just crash. They don't have it to keep going. But we always said the rally cars are the best kind of body cars. Like you say, they could take damage, hit a tree, keep going. They'll
Get
drive
flipped.
bent. Yeah, get flipped and the whole body be twisted, but they'll still keep going. And, those are the really good cars. And then you have like the diesel trucks and stuff like that. They're good. They're unstoppable and they never break down, but they're just not quick enough,
Right. I
So
remember the diesel. That was the third one. Yeah. It was just, they were good, but yeah, they just weren't fast enough to make it,
right.
regretfully.
Yeah. So you can be a non-quitter, you could be someone who never quits, whatever, but you still have to be a performer. You still have to be able to go so fast and keep up with the team and run and everything else. So some of the diesel trucks were good, but you have to tell them, look, you just need to bring it up a little bit more, and then you'll be a perfect rally car.
So then, again, that first time they might fail and then they have to come back that second time. And you're able to get feedback, I'm guessing, from the people that are testing you, so you know
No,
what you have to bring. No? They don't
nothing,
give you any feedback?
nothing. It's like the police force. It's like if you don't pass your police application, they don't tell you what to improve on because they don't want to tell you what you have to change to be a member. They want to see if you can figure it out, if, maybe you grow from the experience, whatever. So all my friends that have tried out police didn't make it the first time, never knew why. Everybody who tries out for special forces on any level, they don't tell you why they didn't pick you up. It's either a yes or no.
So I guess you kind of have to be, again, accountable and aware of where you struggled the most, and then be responsible for making necessary changes that you think will help you the next time around.
Yeah. And like if you think about it, you're like, oh man, by day 3, I was too tired. I couldn't even think straight by day 3. And I basically dragged my ass for the last, 3 days. Well, then you can kind of pick up on it if you look at it. But some people come on and be like, oh, I have no idea. I was perfect at everything. Well, maybe that was the problem why you didn't get picked up because you thought you were perfect at everything. Like there are events, like stages throughout the thing that you are just going to suck at. You are going to
Right.
mess up the instructions. You are going to go the wrong way. They're going to tell you to go right. You're going to go left right out of the gate. But you have to just be able, once that scenario is done, you sit down, you realize you screwed it up. You completely went the wrong way and all that sort of stuff. You just have to take a breath, clear your head, kind of put it out of your system or out of your mind, and then start fresh again to recruit for the next one and the next one and the next one, you know?
Yeah, you really, I think, especially as guys, we struggle with ego.
Yes.
It's hard for us, I think, to acknowledge our weaknesses, right? Like we make mistakes. We all do, right? That's fine. But sometimes that self-reflection and the ego is something that a lot of guys, I think, struggle with. It's hard to go and say, okay, I have these weaknesses in my mental health, my emotional health, my physical health, whatever it is, and I need to improve upon them. And I do think that the most expensive thing you can own, it's not your house or your car, it's your ego.
Yeah.
Because the cost of maintaining your ego can be relationships, it can be opportunities, and it can be your peace, right? The moment you're willing to accept that you're wrong and either speaking or acting out of ignorance, that's when growth can occur. And that was something that was really hard for me, even in prison. I remember going into prison and now I had to take orders. And I know you know this, when you're in the military, you have to take orders. You have to be, but you know that going into the military, you're going to have to take orders. You're going to get talked down to a lot. You told me the stick poking, like all these things that they do in order to mess with you here. But the thing for me when I went into prison, so prison is involuntary, I would say, military duty in the sense where you guys volunteer for it. We don't. I mean, we do involuntarily because we choose a life that most likely is either going to end up killing us or putting us in prison. When I went into prison, though, I didn't have the mentality. I had an ego that I didn't like to be told what to do. So it was really hard for me in the beginning to have guards, to have correctional officers, to have parole officers tell me what I needed to do and to talk down to me. Much like in the military, in prison, you're a number. You're not really a human being in prison. There are things that most things you cannot do in there, right? You don't have the right to do. I get it. I'm not complaining and whining about it, but that was a big issue for me to come over because again, my ego, my pride wanted to fight against that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like a lot of people don't or probably don't know too. The first time I trained with you, my ego was in the way, and me and you didn't work out the first time we trained together. Like I hired Tyson. I was doing some sessions. I was stuck training a certain way, very ego heavy lifting. And Tyson's like, "Look, you have injuries. We have to change stuff because if you keep lifting heavy like you're doing, those injuries aren't going to heal." And Tyson had me on this more kind of
It
injury
was modified.
recovery. Yeah,
It was a
modified.
it was a modified program to your issues.
Yeah, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it because I wanted to lift like a Neanderthal. I wanted to lift heavy. I thought if I even backed off by 5 pounds, I was going to get small. My ego was messing with me and stuff. It didn't work out the first time I trained with you. And then once I was able to realize, like, hey, okay, I am getting older. These injuries are getting worse. I need to take my ego out of this and maybe listen to somebody who's done some, knowledge and training and stuff. And now my injuries are so much better and I've gained so much more weight and solid muscle and stuff. But my ego probably put me a year behind of where I could be just because I didn't want to listen.
You know what though? Even for myself, I think it was like 2 or 3 years in between the first time we trained together and when you came back to me.
Yeah.
And even then within that time, even myself as a coach, I had to come to realization that even though I do have more knowledge than my clients, you would hope that your trainer has more knowledge than you, but you know, I also realized that the best program that I can write or give a client that I'm either training in person or that I'm coaching is the one that they're going to enjoy doing. So when you came to me the second time, we sat down and we talked, and I understood that there was some things we needed to correct and help you with because of your injury that you had happened while you were on your bike. You injured yourself pretty badly and there's a lot of things you couldn't do comfortably anymore. So I told you, okay, we're going to do some things my way, and then I'm going to allow you to train the heavy hard way where we can.
Yeah.
So long as recovery and pain and everything is okay, then let's allow for you to enjoy this as well. I didn't want to make it a joyless activity for you. And I had to understand that as well. Like a good coach understands that the best thing for his client is what they're going to enjoy doing. And it's finding a balance, right? It's finding a balance of allowing your client to do what they love, especially if there's someone like you who's not new. Again, a lot of people that come to me, they're new. So they're going to do whatever I ask them to. But even them, I want to make sure that when I'm training a new client, someone who's new to fitness, are you enjoying this?
Yeah. And you
Because
gave
it's
me the
not always
option.
what I want.
Yeah.
Sorry,
And
go
you
ahead,
gave me
bro.
the perfect thing. And you were like, you can go as heavy as you want, as long as your form is up to my standard.
Yeah, I just wanted you to be able to control the weight. That's it. And that's kind of the thing that I've told all my clients now is go heavy if you want. That's fine. So long as you control the weight doesn't control you. Because I don't mind some ego lifting. I don't mind some heavy lifting within the realm of being a little erring on the side of caution,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just being
Because
a little bit cautious.
when I met you, I had elbow sleeves on, I had wrist straps,
Knee
I had
sleeves.
knee sleeves, I had all this stuff I had to put on because of the pain I was having in all my joints because I was lifting way too heavy. I wasn't going all the way down or the proper full form. I was doing kind of like the heavy, just kind of pushing. And
You're very
then
tight,
yeah. And then
very tight.
now, training with you, I don't wear any elbow sleeves, wrist straps, knee straps anymore. All that stuff is healed. Yeah, my weight is down, but my body looks better and it feels so much better. Like I don't have joint pain, which was killing me when I first started with you, was the amount of joint pain I had.
I mean, hey, jumping out of how many jumps have you done out of a airplane parachuting?
Yeah.
Like my
Quite a few.
God, my knees and hips and lower back would be a mess if I were you two.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what was good. You realized all that, and then seeing me squat, heavy weights, and my knees were dying. Like, hey man, I don't think squats are for you anymore. I think we need to do like the pendulum kind of squat and easier stuff that's easier on the joints. You're still squatting, still working legs. It's just there's kind of an easier way to do it.
Yeah, I wanted, for Jay, what I wanted to do was make sure that we brought in something that gave him a little bit more external support because he's always had a tough time bracing internally. And that's what's required when you're doing something like a squat. He's very tight in the hips. So, we have hinge patterns in, but I also realize that making him do heavy RDLs and heavy deadlifts is not going to be beneficial for the issues that he has. There's certain times in life where things are going to have to change. And again, this is where being accountable, being responsible for where we are in our life is really important. And that it's no longer ego. We're not ego driven. We're acknowledging where our struggles are and what needs to change. We need to be able to adapt.
Yeah. And people get scared to go to the gym and ask people questions or whatever that. Man, the 613, the gym we work at, man, it's one of the friendliest gyms I've ever been to. Like, if you don't know how something works, you can go to anybody in that gym and say, "Hey, do you know how this mechanism works? Or do you know how this cable system works?" I mean, people get intimidated, but that gym is probably one of the friendliest, nicest gyms I've ever worked out at. People will show you anything, take time. People will motivate you, be like, "Yeah, okay, you got it." How many people we see about to do a PR and then everybody just stops and claps and cheers them on and wants them to go. Like, it's one of the best gyms I've ever been to for that. Has that camaraderie that
Yeah, it's a great community. It's a fantastic community. Ever since I've been there since 2020, I love the community that it has, and it's again that's so supportive when it comes to helping people attain their goals and their dreams. And I think it's wonderful. If you can find a gym that's like that in your local area, I recommend that over your box gyms any day. And I get it, like box gyms are convenient because you have multiple locations. Usually you can use your pass at any of the locations, especially if you're traveling across Canada, going to like an Anytime Fitness. Yeah, sure. I understand it. Makes sense because you're maybe going from Toronto to Vancouver to Ottawa to wherever in your month to month travels. So you want access to a gym in your area or where you're going to be at that time. But if you have the chance to find a real community gym, it's amazing. And again, talking about accountability, having a good supportive community helps you to be accountable, much like a good training partner.
yeah. Yeah. And you can whine about it. There's one of the best things I saw on Instagram was like, my parents didn't raise a quitter, but they definitely raised a whiner. I whine all the time when I do legs with Tyson. He has me doing single leg Bulgarians. I complain all the time, but I'm still going to show up. I'm still going to do it. So you can complain about it. You can whine about it when you're doing it and stuff and all that, as long as you're doing it, as
Do the
long as
work.
yeah, as long as you're doing any work you need to do, complain all you want. Complain the whole time, as long as you're doing it. Like when I have to go outside and walk my steps and it's -30, I hate it. I'm miserable, but I'm going to put my toque on, my scarf on, whatever I got to do, and I'm going to go do it because I have to be accountable for it, you know? But yeah, you can be miserable or upset or jokingly whine about it or be like, oh, all you want, but you still got to do it?
Put in the work. Yeah, I always think too, just making sure we're staying on topic with the discussion. I think, too, that you have the blame game, so
Yeah.
to speak, right? And the blame game's always a defense mechanism to avoid the truths that are lurking. We know what the truths are, but we have sold ourselves on the lies that we've been telling for so long that they've become our truth,
Yeah.
right? Like, I think, like for myself, I remember when I think I was around 12 at the time, sitting in a specialist office who had done the scan. He was testing me for ADHD and some other stuff. After the results were in, it's like, I think like a week after, he called my mom and I back into his office. 12 years of age, sitting there and I'm listening to him talk to my mom and he's telling my mom, yeah, your son, he does have ADHD and he's got some signs of, emotional issues. Like he's probably going to struggle with mental health, depression, things like that, much like the rest of your family. But when you're a kid and you're hearing these things, you don't understand what that means. Now he said you're going to struggle with. So I heard, and he's also talking about like, oh, this is why your son's a class clown. This is why he acts out. This is why he's doing
Yeah.
this. So I'm listening to this at 12 years of age and I'm like, oh, okay. So because I have this, I'm not going to be able to learn. This is why I don't do well in school. So I guess I'm just never going to do well in school, right? Because it's not, they don't explain to you how it
Right.
works. They're just like, well, you have this, so you need to take this medication. And I was put on medication. Back in the 90s, it was Ritalin.
Yeah. That was a
It's
big
like,
one
oh,
back, I remember. Yeah.
yeah, you have ADHD, you're going on Ritalin. So I was put on Ritalin, and there you are, not understanding what your deal is and how it affects you. So I just remained in this, I guess, of a victim mindset. When I look back, if I can describe it as anything, it was a victim mindset, victim of my circumstances, and of course of my choices. As a child, you can say a kid's just being a kid. A kid should just be a kid. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I'm not saying a child should not enjoy their childhood, but a child needs to be made responsible and accountable at a young age.
Yeah. It starts the younger you can start them on that, whether it's just, okay, if you want this cartoon, well, your room has to be tidy. You know what I mean? It's just little stuff. It could be like he has to put 3 toys away and then you get some cartoon time or something. But it just starting with that little stuff and it just builds in their head, and they just become accustomed to it. Okay, if I want, I have to do the shitty shit, and then I get the reward. You know, so yeah, you got to start young and get them in. And I get it. Everybody just wants to say, "Oh, life is so hard. Just let them be who they want to be and everything." But if you don't start them young on basic stuff, it's only going to make life when they get older worse. It's only going to make life harder. If they got to wait until they're in college or university or even high school to learn this stuff, they're not going to have a good time in life at all.
They're never going to learn it. It's so much harder to learn. What is that? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like, the
Yeah,
older you get, the harder it is to do those things.
right.
So much harder. Like, taking ownership and accepting responsibility for where you are, your actions, one of the hardest things I had to do.
Yeah. Like I know I hate to age ourselves, or I hate being that guy like back in my day, but like there was a bit of fear from your parents that kept you in check. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
gonna get an ass whooping. You're gonna get an
Yeah.
ass whooping, man.
Like there was fear that made you accountable for your actions, and you would push the limit, and then your parents would show you what happens when you push the limit. Like now, you know, I don't agree. Like we were quite far the one way when we were growing up as kids. Beatings were just so common. But yes, we don't have to go that state, but we can still teach accountability without the beatings and everything else. We can still teach of what happens if, clean your room, you get this time, you get that time. You don't need to beat them anymore, but we can still teach it, you know?
Yeah, like, certain actions have consequences.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's all it is. And yet I'll see parents when the kid starts throwing a temper tantrum. I get it. You don't want to go through that with your kid in public. No parent does. It's
Yeah.
embarrassing, it's annoying, it's draining, it's fatiguing. There's things you just need to do and get done.
Yeah.
So sometimes I do understand you have to pick your battles, but you can't allow your child to call the shots.
Yeah.
You can't.
All right.
And it is a tough, tough game. I don't want to call, maybe not a game, but it is a tough thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. My nieces and nephews all the time. Every time I'd go take them, I'd have them for the day. Yeah. My brother would tell me, they're going to test you. They're going to see what you can get away with. Don't let them get away with shit. You know what I mean? Keep them accountable. Don't let them, try to bullshit you or whatever. It's they have to do this. If they want this, they have to do this. And I'll be like, okay. And then I had the rules that my brother gave me, and yeah, I wouldn't be soft. I wouldn't give in to them. And once they realized I wasn't going to give in, well, then they did everything they had to do, their chores and everything else before they got their popcorn movie time, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, and all my nieces and nephews now, they're doing great. They're all in university, whatever, because they all have that accountability that my older brother taught them very young age. He even told me, he's like, look, I don't want to do the beatings and stuff that we had to go through. He's like, there's got to be a better way. And he tried that from young age, doing little stuff, and it worked really well. So, yeah,
Everyone, the earlier you can set structure into someone's life, the better they are. And I like, look, my mom did her best to try to put in structure, but she also had a lot on her plate. And again, it's not justifying, just as an adult now and knowing the full set of circumstances. Because when you're a kid,
Yeah.
you don't understand those things. Right. But as a grown up now, I understand that my mom was juggling a lot. She was doing a lot.
Yeah.
And she was relying on my grandmother to help with a lot of the raising. And my grandmother did it one way. My mom did it another way. My grandmother was definitely more old school, and not necessarily in a bad way, just definitely very much so no guff.
Yeah.
She didn't take any crap. My mom probably took way more crap for me than, she should have. My grandmother didn't tolerate that. So I knew I couldn't get away with much with my grandmother.
Yeah.
And it helped me, right? She's a fantastic woman. Definitely like a
Yeah.
second mother to me. And that accountability definitely was important, but it wasn't structured. And that was kind of the problem I think that I dealt with, was that accountability, that structure that all of us thrive on, right? Routine.
Yeah.
Things weren't always routine. And prison taught me that, like, having a routine, much like in military, you become more accountable because you're following a set of rules, a structure, and that is so healthy for people.
Yeah, like we talk about the gym, it's like, even if you come to the gym, even day one, even if you sucked, even if your first workout was horrible, you didn't know what you were doing, you couldn't figure out the weights, the treadmill, you couldn't figure it out, whatever. It doesn't matter if your first day, first 2 days, whatever, suck. It's gonna suck. But just showing up on 3, 4, 5, I guarantee you, like you always say, it does get easier. You're gonna know what machines work for you. You're gonna start meeting people, the same people at the same time, and then you can ask people, "Hey, I can't figure this thing out." "Oh, yeah, click here, pull." "Oh, yeah, it's great." But I'm not gonna tell you day one's gonna be easy, day two's gonna be. No, you're gonna wear the wrong shoes, the wrong shirt. You're not gonna know the right machines. You're gonna bring the wrong footwear. But stick to it, stick to your accountability, and things will get better, things will get easier. And then you'll just regret that you didn't do it sooner. Like everybody says, "My only regret is I didn't do it sooner." I hear that all the time. I'm sure you hear it as well.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at our this is a little bit more towards habits, but if we look at um how much our habits even do affect our accountability or responsibility later on in life. You think about bad habits. Bad habits uh, tend to be something that affect us further down the line. So if we put the wrong habits in our life, we don't see necessarily the repercussions of those bad habits until later, right? If you're a smoker, let's say, you don't get cancer from your first pack of cigarettes, right? Cancer comes after, maybe 10, 15, 20 years of smoking, right? Same thing with alcohol. If you're abusing alcohol, your liver doesn't fail after drinking a 40 ounce of vodka. You're definitely not going to feel good,
Yeah,
but those effects come later. So the bad habits, they affect us later in life.
yeah,
Whereas the good habits, they're affecting us instantly. So, again, you talk about going to the gym. You go to the gym, the first week of going to the gym, you said it really well, right? The first week you're going to the gym, you're sore, but you don't notice any changes,
yeah,
right? You're moving awkwardly. You don't know if you're doing the movements right. There's a financial investment. You've got to get some workout clothes. You got to get a membership. Maybe you got to get a trainer. Maybe you got to get, program, whatever it is. There's an initial investment, but the return on that investment, it doesn't happen right away. Whereas the bad habits, right? You have a cigarette. Oh, my stress, I feel better. I have a drink. Oh, I feel so much better, right? It's instant gratification.
yeah,
Those good habits, though, you won't see that until 6 months, 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. That's where you start to see the good results of the good habits. And that's why it's so hard for people to implement the good habits into a society that is now so reliant on instant gratification.
yeah,
And that's why I'm always trying to communicate to my clients, like, delay gratification. When you wake up, don't go for your phone. Go outside for a walk or do
yeah,
some gratitude. Do something that keeps you away from your phone, at least minimum for the first 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Look, no one's if you're up, I mean, I'm up really early, but I think most people get up probably around 5 or 6 a.m., maybe 7 a.m. But I think most people have with travel now, especially traffic, most people are probably up at 6 a.m. No one's waiting for your email at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? You're not a morning person because you're not doing anything in the morning to help your situation.
Right.
Right? If people understood like being accountable to what you choose to do when you go to bed, getting your day ready the night before, right? Laying out your clothes and maybe your pills, get your lunch ready, get your kids' lunches ready, prep the night before for the next day, right? So when you wake up in the morning, you can be more productive.
Yeah.
Because maybe you got to get your kids out the door, you got to get yourself out to work, you got to do some things in the morning. So it requires you maybe getting to bed a little bit earlier, waking up a little bit earlier, and taking charge of your morning. Win the morning, so to speak. If you win the morning, you win the day. But if you
Yeah.
fail to do something good in the morning for yourself, because, again, morning is when your willpower and your motivation is at the highest. So if I tell my clients, like, when do you think you're going to do better to work out? People are like, well, I'd rather work out after work. I'm like, yeah, but that's when your willpower and your motivation's at its lowest because you're tired. You just want to get home. You've been working for 8 hours. Like your chances of doing a workout at that time, if you're new, are really low.
Yeah.
But if you put it to the morning, chances are much higher.
And they say, like, statistically, they say, like, you go in the morning, you get rid of kind of like some built up stress. It puts you already in a good mindset and gets rid of maybe any built up anxiety stuff in you. And your day, they say, actually goes a lot smoother if you do your training in the morning, you know?
Dopamine, all those things, right? Like endorphins, like after you have a good workout, you feel good,
Yeah.
but you also have the energy. You're more rested in the morning.
Right. And I laughed how you say that because I've always laid all my stuff out the night before. I've always laid out my pills, my clothes, my gym clothes, I've always laid it out the night before, everything I need. So when I wake up in the morning, there's no wasted time, there's no thinking. I get up, shower, shave, clothes, everything I need out the door. Maybe even have my pre-workout kind of pre-made without the water. Everything's ready to go. And I don't even have to think in the morning because I know where everything is laid out. I just bang, 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 and go, you know?
Same thing, man. I love having my day ready the night before. I mean, but my mornings, I learned to win my mornings in prison. And again, this is we're talking about accountability. This was instrumental. And I've talked about this on some of my TikTok posts and Instagram posts. And I'm going to talk about it here again because I think it's so important to teach my audience that when you're in prison, you don't know what you're going to encounter once you leave your cell. Unlike what most people think, prison is not the happiest place on earth. It sucks. So when my door would crack, so when the cell door cracks at 7 a.m., I was already up at 6. So when I woke up at 6, I made sure I was doing for myself, my morning routine was gratitude. It was prayer, Bible reading, vision board. So over my desk, the cells are 6 by 8. There's not a lot of room in your cell. So we have our desk, and over the desk, there's I guess a bulletin, Bristol board, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it, where you can put your thumbtacks and put up
Yeah.
pictures and whatever you want on that. And I actually created myself a vision board in my cell, and that would change as I went from max to medium, medium to minimum. It changed a little bit, but I would wake up and I would look at that every single morning so that I knew that I was focused on what my end goal was. And the longer I was in prison, the closer I was getting to that goal. And that goal, again, it changed a little bit. When I created my vision board in Maximum, I had obviously a vision of where I had pictures of Kelowna because it's my favorite
Right.
place in Canada. So I
Yeah.
had pictures of Kelowna because I'm like, yeah, that's where I want to be when I get out. But I also had on there, get to medium,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
right? So then Once I got to medium, it's like, well, I took that off and get to minimum. And it's always just making little changes on it. And when I got to medium, halfway through my time in medium, I met my wife. She became my girlfriend. So I had pictures of her up there. Now she became part of my vision for the future. So I made sure that every single morning I had my morning routine to win the day. Because when I step out of that cell at 7 a.m., the guy across from me, the guy beside me, the correctional officer, the parole officer, I don't know what they're dealing with. I don't
Right.
know if the guy across from me is having a fight with his old lady. I don't know if the guy beside me is losing custody of his kids or losing his house, or he's been denied his appeal. I don't know if the correctional officer that I have had a fight with his wife. And I don't know if my parole officer is having a bad day.
Yeah.
All I can do is be responsible, be accountable to do what I need to do in order for myself to be as productive as I possibly can that day. And for a lot of people right now, you need to understand this is a day by day process. Yes, it is good to have goals, but I think people fail to take the approach of just handle it one day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one.
It's so hard because obviously I have goals, you have goals, we all have goals. I want to better my quality of life. I want to better my health. I want to do this for my kids. I want to do this with my job or my career. I mean, look how many people right now are maybe facing layoffs for the government.
Yeah.
Like my wife works for the government. There's so many people right now that are terrified that they're going to lose their job.
Yeah.
You cannot control what's going to happen with your job in the next few months, but you are accountable and you are responsible for what you do day to day leading up to that.
And
Because
I,
what if the worst happens? What are you doing right now to prepare yourself for if the worst case happens?
yeah.
Most people are not doing anything.
Yeah.
They're probably just crossing their fingers and hoping I don't get that letter, and like, yeah, I get it. You don't want that letter. And if I don't think about it, well, then you know what? It's not going to happen. Nope, it is going to happen. And when it happens, it's going to hit you like a brick in the face.
And they say, like, if you're fit and you're mentally strong and you have everything else kind of working, when you get bad news like that, it's not as destroying to you if you have at least the other stuff organized and routine and, everything else. When you get bad news, you can handle it better. It's not as crippling. But if you don't have a fitness routine, like you say,
Mental health
accountability
routine,
routine,
any
yeah,
kind of health routine,
yeah.
you're screwed.
Yeah, it's gonna hit you so hard, and it's just gonna make it so much worse. Now, it's gonna be bad. Yeah, it's gonna be the worst thing getting the layoff thing and everything else. At least if you have the other 50% of your life organized, then maybe you can bounce back faster. You can think more clearly because, you have the mental health capacity like you're talking about and stuff. But if all this isn't organized and your body isn't organized and fitness isn't organized, and you throw another friggin' bomb on that, it's just going to be a downward spiral mess, you know?
I hate to say this to listeners, right? Some of you are maybe not going to like it. I'm going to get canceled within the second episode. Look, as a coach and a personal trainer and someone like you're special forces, right? You talked about this earlier. Your body is your business card,
Yeah.
right? Like who's going to hire a fat trainer or a fat coach? Nobody.
Right.
Because you're like, hey, I can get you in shape. Yeah, but why are you not in shape?
Yeah.
Why are you fat and out of shape? You want me to do what you're incapable of doing. And I want to tie this in because you really said something a second ago that kind of it was very similar to what I said to a young client of mine. And he's right now doing his school and he's going to embark into the workforce soon. And he's overweight. He's an overweight, heavy kid. And I just, I've been mentoring him since he was 13. I've been training him since he was 13. But he's becoming a young man now. And I told him, buddy, like your body is your business card. And look, he's going into trades. No, he's not going to be a trainer. He's not going to be a coach. But if you're walking into a job interview and you're really overweight as an employer, that is going to affect your decision on hiring somebody. When you are sitting across the table, yeah, I get it. We're in a society that fat acceptance is very prevalent. And I'm not saying you need a six pack in order to get a job. But if you're not taking care of yourself physically, there's probably a really good chance you're not taking care of yourself mentally. And that's going to be in your potential future employer's mind. They're going to be looking at you and thinking, okay, well, this person is not physically healthy. They're probably not mentally healthy. They're probably not emotionally healthy. And I say this because I struggled with my weight for a long time, especially in prison. One of the vices I used when I lost out on doing my drugs, right? I used to abuse a lot of recreational drugs. The three I abused the most was GHB, weed, and steroids. So once I lost weed was the last one that I quit when I was in prison. I went to food. I turned to food as my vice, my coping mechanism, my comfort when I was stressed. And I was stressed every single day. And of course, you minimize, right? You minimize your snacking, your poor food choices. Yeah, I still worked out, but you can't outwork a poor diet. I know you've heard this, right? You can't outwork really bad eating habits. And my eating habits were atrocious. And I went into prison, I was around 235, 240 pounds, 6 feet, very lean, but also on a lot of steroids, right? I abused my health pretty badly. But I'd lost a bit of muscle, obviously. I wasn't on steroids anymore. And I think I'd gone up to about 275 or 278. I was just under 280 pounds. My waist had gone from a 34 to a 42. Now, sure, in baggy prison clothes, I looked like a football player. I looked like a pretty imposing, pretty intimidating guy. But I remember when I went to this PFE, which is a private family visit, my mom came to see me for the first time in prison. It was the first time, I think, in 2.5 years that I stood before an actual mirror, because in prison, they don't give you access to mirrors. You just have these little, what it is. I'm sure in the military, when you're on tour, you don't have a mirror. You have like the reflective tin kind of durable surfaces, right? So that's what we had. We had these metal, shiny, stainless steel-ish kind of surfaces where you could see to shave, but it wasn't clear. Gave a very distorted view of what you looked like. Much like the distorted perception I had of myself. So my mom saw me for the first time and she's like, "Oh, you've gained some weight." I'm like, "Nah, Mom, I'm huge. I'm big. I'm working out. Don't worry. I'm all that is man."
Yeah.
Kind of sound like Tim the Toolman Taylor, from Tool Time or Home Improvement or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I sold myself on this lie that no, everything's fine. And then I went and stood. I remember I took my first shower in a really nice shower again. First nice shower. It wasn't a prison shower. First nice shower I'd been inside in 2.5 years in this private family visit. I came out of the shower bowl and I stood in front of this mirror, this very big mirror. And the mirror went all the way down, to like basically your waist and up, right? It's a huge mirror.
Yeah.
And I saw myself. And those lies that I've been selling myself on, I saw myself clear as day. And I saw that I had let myself. I saw that the food that I wasn't just using, that I was abusing, there was just a perpetual cycle of addiction and abuse. And that was really a part of the start of the accountability, right?
Yeah.
I knew I had to take responsibility for what I was putting into my body. I finished that weekend. I ordered a whole bunch of junk food because I was like, "Oh, I'm going to get food I can't normally get in prison." So I ordered ribs and like, oh my God, bro. I remember after I was eating those 3 days I was in the trailer, I was eating the food and I was like, "You fat shit. Like, this is it." Enjoy it while you got it, buddy. Because as soon as I went back into the prison, I went into my cell and I took all the chips, all the pop, what was it called? The McCain pizzas. I had McCain
Okay.
pizzas I used to get, right? I took all that stuff and I went to a couple inmates in my wing. I'm like, hey, you wanna trade me some of this on the next canteen? Can you get me eggs? Can you get me cottage cheese? Can you get me protein powder? I'll give you this. Sure. So I got rid of all my junk food, got all this healthy food in because I was tired. I had it up to here. But it started with that one thing, but there was still so much more I had to do. But this is again just to communicate to people, like if you're at a point right now where you're maybe what I'm saying, maybe what Jay is saying is resonating and hitting, and realizing that you need to start bettering your circumstances, and instead of blaming everyone for your shit and where you are right now, instead of blaming your kids, blaming your parents, blaming your boss. No, it's you.
Yeah.
It's your choices. Again, you're not responsible for the damage, but you're responsible for your healing. You're responsible for your health. You're responsible for taking care of yourself.
Yeah. 100%.
So you need to get off your fat ass, just like I did. And you know what's funny is like another thing that really helped me, and I'm not saying it was a healthy approach, but when I was on embarking on this total transformation, that I was just tired of being fat and overweight and I hating how I felt, is I would go and do these bike sprints. We had this old school, I don't even remember the name brand of the bike, but it was this old spin bike. Well, not even a spin bike, but just a regular, exercise bike
Yeah.
inside the wing. It was the only one we had. And I would do sprints on it every single day, and way too much. I now what I know, I did way too much, but I didn't care.
Right.
And I would do 10 or I started with 10 minutes of kind of 3-minute warm up, 1 minute high intensity, 1 minute low intensity. And then I would do a 3-minute cool down. And then I gradually kept increasing till I was doing that for like 20 minutes. My friggin' cardio was like, I was a machine at that point.
Yeah.
And I remember there was times where I didn't want to do it. And the thing I would always think of was my ex's brother. Now, this was actually just before he died. He died while I was in Max, and that was actually when I hit rock bottom. That'll be I'll talk about this in another episode. But I used his situation as fuel because this poor kid had cystic fibrosis, but he loved to train. He loved to go to the gym with me. When he used to live with me when I was not in prison, when I was still outside, him and I used to go to the gym together all the time. He loved to train. And I'd be feeling sometimes like, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. And then I would just be like, you need to shut your beep ass up and do what you need to do right now. And I would just grind out the rest of that time. And I think a lot of us need to remember, like, your circumstances might not be ideal. You might be dealing with some struggle right now. But if you are listening to Jay and I right now, that means you have a smartphone. That means you have an internet connection. It means you're probably not homeless. It means you probably have a decent place to start. So maybe you're not such a big damn victim after.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, I think that's a pretty good coverage of accountability, I'm hoping,
Right. Yeah. I think so.
to share with the audience, again, for our listeners, you need to be accountable, you need to be honest with yourself. You need to own your mistakes openly. I mean, that's what Jay and I are doing right now. We're being pretty open with some of the things we've had to deal with and that we've had to overcome.
Yeah.
I'm not asking, and I don't think you'd ask anyone to do anything that you haven't done yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Wasn't rocket science. People think there's some crazy mystery thing that helps you get this or helps you get better or whatever. And I tell them it's basic stuff. It's just showing up. Like, what do they say? 60, 70% of it is just showing up. That's the
Dude,
hardest thing,
so true.
Yeah.
And that's such a hard thing to do because that means you have to show up for yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of time we don't like who we are anymore. We hate who we are. And it's just like, what's the point? What's the point?
It's like we see in the military, mirrors and stopwatches don't lie. You know what I mean?
Love that. Mirrors and stopwatches. Yeah. The mirror in the PFV definitely didn't lie to me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
My other one was that bending over to tie up my boot wasn't lying because I could barely breathe. I mean, I'd gotten so big to the point where my fat ass was bending over to tie up my boot and I could barely breathe. Like, that's not normal.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't breathe when you're bending over to tie up you might have an issue.
Yeah, exactly.
You might have an issue. So just remember, like, what you're doing publicly, make sure you can still do it privately. Like, that's a big part of it, right? A lot of us, we do it when everyone's watching, but we got to keep doing it when no one's watching
Yeah.
because you're doing it for you. And if you have kids, remember, you're doing it to hopefully break this generation. You don't want to pass it on. You don't pass your shit and your baggage on to the next generation. End it with you.
Yeah.
Be accountable. Be responsible. Don't blame others. Don't minimize. Don't justify. Just be accountable.
Yeah.
One last thing. Develop structure. Again, you've touched on this. I've touched on this. Develop structure and discipline in your day to day life. Set clear, measurable, and achievable goals. And there's a study that was recently done, I think in the British uh, Journal of Medicine, some along those lines, and they were saying even as little as 11 minutes of walking a day can reduce mortality, certain cancers, like 11 minutes. So if you are completely inactive, not asking you to go and do a 60-minute workout in the gym. I'm not asking you to go and empty out your fridge like I emptied out my cell. No, I understand. I took some pretty extreme measures, but I was in a pretty extreme place. I mean, maybe you're there. Maybe some of the people in the audience are in at a very low point. I hope you're not there. I'm trying to prevent you, our audience, from getting to that point. Please don't wait till you're at rock bottom. Start now.
Yeah.
But if you're at rock bottom and you're wondering where to start just with one thing.
Yeah.
Start
100%.
with just a little bit of exercise every day, just a little bit every day. And do it in the morning, like we said, that win the day. Go to bed a little earlier, make sure everything's planned and laid out, just like Jay and I do, right? Get your coffee maker ready the night before. And then just before you do your coffee, before you reach for the phone, go outside. And look, we live in Canada. I do my 30-minute walk. And the past 2 weeks has been minus 27, minus 20.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's been the coldest capital in the world the past 2 weeks. I'm still outside walking and I've got a treadmill inside my house. But the reason I go outside is that I just don't want to go and reach for my phone. I want to take myself out of that. I want to get fresh, really fresh air on my face. I come back from my walks and I got what looks like a National Geographic. I've got like popsicle, like
Frozen. Yeah.
icicles on my mustache. I walk, I'm frozen, I'm cold, but I'm keeping the promise to myself. Keep your promises, people. Anyways, Jay, thank you so much for joining me for another episode, brother. It's always a pleasure to have you and to have your wisdom and your life experience.
Wisdom.
Hey, bro.
It's funny how what we did in life is now considered wisdom when it was to us, it was just survival.
Yeah, but it is. I mean, it's lived experience.
Yeah.
It's a lived experience. It's applied, and it's just trying to share with people that it's possible. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
you did what most people would never be able to do to be in the JTF, and you did it in your first try.
yeah.
You're one of the few that nailed it on the first try. you're a testament to what a year of investment, that ROI, right? That year that you put in. Would you say that return on investment was worth it?
Gave me my life, gave me one of the best jobs I ever had in my life, and the memories from that and everything else I'll have forever.
Would you trade it again if you had to?
Geez, I don't know. That's another episode.
It's another episode, eh?
Because
All right.
there's the whole SD side. I'm sure we're going to talk about in
That is,
episodes.
I guess what I meant was like the good part of it, you know,
Yeah, all
the
the good
wins.
stuff. Yeah, I mean, I would do that in a heartbeat again, and everything else. It's just unfortunately, like any job, you take good with the bad, and sometimes the
Yeah.
bad can really
And I
kick
do
you
have
down.
that planned for another episode. Yeah, we definitely will be talking about a lot of the things that you've had to overcome. Where we are right now wasn't all rainbows and sunshine, right?
Like we talked
We
about
both paid a huge price in order to be who we are
my
and where we
like
are.
my accountability was like we talked about alcohol. You know what I mean? You have a couple drinks to take the edge off. It's all about taking the edge off, and next thing you know, you're taking a lot more than the edge off. You know, so
I want
but
to
yeah.
forget about yesterday so I can survive today.
Exactly, but yeah, and all those other episodes, we'll get into like that and things you and I use to cope, and so other people hopefully just learn from our mistakes and realize, yeah, that doesn't help. No, it doesn't.
It definitely doesn't. Yeah, again, thank you for tuning in, thank you for listening, and we'll look forward to doing our next episode. Take care.